we are. All right, here we are. Here we are. Here we are. All right, here we are. Here we are. We're working on a 1984 Hunter 34 with the good old BNR rig, Bergstrom and Ritter. So these rigs are kind of complicated. Well, complicated mean there's a lot of sections of wire they got to be built. So and they're also, you got to pre-tune them on the hard. So if you look at this mast here, it's got a lot of tension in it and a lot of bend in it. So you got to do that before the mast goes up. So this boat, we were going to just replace the furler, and I went up there and noticed it's like 6 cracked swages. So I'll show you guys that. And so so it went from replacing a furler in the headstay to a full re-rig. So yeah, so I'm just going to kind of go through the steps that I do to prep a mast, to strip the rigging and to build new rigging, and especially on this guy. All right, so the first thing I do on these BNR rigs, because of that bend, so you can see it here, is what I do is I take the main halyard that goes all the way from the top, obviously the mast, and all the way down to the bottom, and I secure it there, and then I crank on it as hard as I can and tie it off. And what that does, if you look, gives me a straight line right here, and you can see how much pre-bend there is. And then I take my tape measure and I measure at the spreaders, so I measure from the halyard to the track. So this one was 8 inches, and then I put that in the spec for the boat, so that when I retune the rig before it goes in, I do the same thing. The same thing up here is 6.5 inches. Put that in the log, and then we know what's up. So there's one here, good crack in there. I think there's several more down here, but basically, yeah, I found some substantial. Oh yeah, here's the good one. So you can see that. Nice and cracked. Who knows? I mean, it could last, another 5-10 years, or it could last, through a rainstorm or the next storm we get. So yeah, definitely a failure of swage feeding there. But this is original rigging, and it's almost exactly 40 years old. So yeah. So we're gonna replacing that here. So this is gonna be what's kind of the pain with these guys, is that you got one pin going through this aluminum spreader tip, stainless steel pin, and you've got all of your cables attached to that pin. So you got your RD1s, or sorry, yeah, these are RD1, X1s, your V2s, and your V1s. They all come in there, but they're all under a ton of tension right now. And so now we go up here, and I'll show you. So what I do to my turnbuckles, it doesn't matter what the boat is, but before the mast is pulled, I put white electrical tape on the turnbuckle, top and bottom, where it's tensioned up. And then that way, so that when we loosen this up and remove it, and then I can lay this down in the shop, and I can readjust the turnbuckle to where this tape is, so I know exactly the length that the turnbuckles were set to, so that I can replicate the same lengths. So, but I reset the turnbuckles to 2/3 open, because you can see these are pretty bottomed out. And the original rigging, the other turnbuckles for the uppers and stuff like that, they were all bottomed out. This is after I backed them off. So you can see they were bottomed out, so it means it was time to be replaced. So yeah, and then we're also gonna be doing a little touch up and some paint on this mast. So my 2 favorite tools that I use a lot are my duck bills. You can get these from Amazon. You can get them from the hardware store, but they are really awesome, and they're really great for straightening out pins. And then the other tool that is really awesome, I call them pin rippers, or nail pullers, whatever. You can find these at any hardware store, but if you look, it's really easy just to pull them out. You don't even have to bother with straightening out the other side. So the other thing is, you can also use these guys to open up the turnbuckle a little bit more, but yeah, you just pull them in there and it's out. Okay, so I'm gonna start out here at the bottom of the BNR rig. And so these guys are the RD ones, and they go from the mast base all the way out to the lower spreader tip. And then you have, that goes from the spreader tip there to the chain plates that your V1, and this one actually has a V1, and then it also has, it's kind of weird, but it's got an intermediate. It's kind of tucked in there. So yeah, so your V1, your RD1, and then coming off of here, that is your D2 that goes to the base of the second spreader. And then from the base of this spreader is your RD2 that goes all the way out there to your spreader tip. So yeah, so that you got the V2 here, and then this is your V3 that goes all the way down to the tip there. So a lot of sections, and if you notice, they don't have adjustment at all. So it's just a marine eye to a marine eye. So same thing here. So this guy's a marine eye to a marine eye. But there is adjustment. Well, this one also, the RD2 is a marine eye. So yeah, so you got to get everything just right. The RD2 and the RD1 have adjusters, because that's what gives you all of this pre-bend. Alright, we released all the RD1s and the RD2s, and so you can see mast has straightened out. So yeah, so everything, all tension's off, so now it's just a matter of getting all these corroded pins done. Okay, well, earlier in the video I showed you two of my favorite tools that I use a lot. I'll show you one more of a favorite. This is Croyle, and it is a really good penetrating lube. It's like a PB Blaster WD-40, but it's like way better. Really like the stuff. And so now we're gonna move to the tools that I don't like, that I have to use. So this pin is frozen in there, a lot of corrosion. So I've got our bronze punch, and the reason why I use bronze is so that it doesn't so it doesn't flare out the end of the pin, or ping it or whatever. So that is the 2-pound sledge, and map gas. Oop, there goes one of them, but yeah. And so yeah, so this is gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of torching, getting this thing red hot basically, and trying to pound it out. Alright, here's your mast. Every spot where there's bad corrosion, I wire wheeled it, and then it got sanded with 120 down to the bared aluminum. So you can see that. I wire wheeled this, and then just give it a little quick light sand. But, yep, there's all of that. And so next is gonna get a zinc chromate primer on the raw aluminum, and then I'll put on spray on some white top coat. All right, here we are. Got the Hunter 34 rig ready to go. We've got all the new standing rigging built up, all 18 pieces. And the mast got a little bit of a touch-up paint. And where there's some spots where the paint was flaking off and everything. So sanded it, primed it, did a little rattle can action. And yeah, so I like to start at the top, starting with the V3s and get that tip all taken care of, and then I work my way down. So yeah, and here's all the backstay stuff. So good times, here we go. Okay, here's the Hunter 34 mast. So we've got the new Harkin Mark IV Ocean Series furler on there, and all the standing rigging's on. And I'm gonna put some boots on here as soon as I'm done with the preliminary tune. So there's this, and you can see it touched up all the paint. And now I've got to tension up the RD2s, which go from the base of the lower spreaders and goes all the way to the tip of the upper spreaders. And then we got to do the RD1s after that, which goes from the tip of the lower spreaders to the base of the mast. And so we'll get our numbers that we wrote down before. So we'll tune it all up, and then tomorrow we're gonna put it in the boat. I just snugged up the RD2s, and before you go any further, you just want to just make sure that the mast is straight, and then you can start putting turns on evenly. All right, more tools for this job. So obviously Tef gel, use that to lube the turnbuckles, and obviously any stainless steel and aluminum interface. So I got my crescent wrench, but this is called a spud wrench, and this is pretty awesome. You can get a bunch of different sizes, but nice and adjustable. It's a really good handle on it, and then you can use the pointy end to help line up any pins and stuff like that. So they're really handy. And like, you know, steel structural riggers, they use these guys all the time for lining up the I-beams and stuff like that before they put rivets or bolts in. And then I use just a slot or a flat head screwdriver, and then if you see, I wrap electrical tape around it to protect the turnbuckles, the brand new turnbuckles, from getting marred up from the screwdriver. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I am a deal.
Okay, here we are. Mast is in the boat. Unfortunately, could not film it because we put it in the boat yesterday when it was completely pouring buckets. So no cameras for that. But yeah, so this is the BNR rig in the boat. And so see how swept back the spreaders are and how much pre-bend there is. And then this one's a unique Hunter as well, that it has a backstay. So it's a, I think it's a 1984 Hunter 34, but yeah, you can see, so you've got your D1s, and then this is your V1, and then this, I'm calling it the intermediate, just because it goes from here to the second set of spreaders, but it could also be called your V2. And so you can see that goes all the way up, and then you got your RD1 going at an angle, your D1 going there, and then there's going to be an RD2 going from here to the tip out there, and then a D2 from the base of that spreader to the tip of that spreader. And then there's another V2 that goes from the tip of that spreader up to that spreader, and then from that tip of the spreader goes up to the top there, and that's your V3. And then of course backstay legs. So complicated BNR rig, but you got a lot of like redundancy. So if one thing fails, you got other stuff to pick up the load. So yeah, so that's this re-rig, and my rattle can paint job turned out pretty good. So happy with that. Customer stoked off of it, and yeah, just measuring for the new jib to send that off to the sailmaker. So we just put on the Harkin Mark IV Ocean Series Unit 1. So it's a great furler, and yeah, it's a great furler. It's got the single groove, so it's pretty simple, but yeah, that's a good cruising furler. So love this thing. I just wanted to also highlight that to do the bare wire lifelines on the boat as well. So those turned out really good, just really clean. So yep, these are all Johnson fittings, Johnson Marine, and then I use the Hain Marine Pelican hooks because those are my favorite and the best bang for the buck. And yeah, so it's the boat all together. All right, Rogue Rigger out.